My name is Auburn, and I love Alaska. If you've been following me for a while, then you already know all of this. But if you're just stumbling across this video, I'll give a quick summary of my history with the state and, maybe help you understand a little bit better why I'm so passionate about the state of Alaska. And then we can move on to the real subject of this video. Skip to this timestamp if you don't care. I was lucky enough to befriend some marvelous people who opened their home and their hearts to me in 2020. They invited me to visit them in February of that year, and I stayed for a very short time. I got to go to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, I got to go to Fur Rondi, and then I returned home to Florida. I had already fallen in love with Alaska by then, despite the cold and the dark depths of winter that Alaska has to deal with. I returned to Alaska as the rest of the world was falling into chaos. We all know what happened in 2020. I was able to spend the majority of the next 2 years, 2020, 2021, in Anchorage. And at the time I was trying to complete my MBA program, which was online. In 2020, I was able to travel within the state of Alaska, and I spent a great deal of time in Anchorage. That's where my friend's home is in Anchorage, Alaska. But I was also able to take, some smaller trips to different places within the state, that are accessible by road. Seward, Palmer, Wasilla, Talkeetna. In 2021, the world opened up a little bit more, and we were able to visit places like Utqiagvik or Barrow. Utqiagvik is the native name for that place, and it is essentially the northernmost point of the United States. I think Point Barrow is actually the northernmost point, but Utqiagvik is the place where people actually live. And it's the kind of place where you may or may not find a polar bear on the football field at the high school. So it's a very unique place, and I count myself very fortunate that I was able to go there. I was also able to visit Skagway and Juneau in 2021 for the very first time. I completed my MBA in late 2021 and of course began the inevitable job hunt. So at this time I was back home in Florida. I had interviewed for and nearly accepted a job working for Holland America Princess as a rail guide, basically working on the railroad, helping people who were finishing their vacations or beginning their vacations with a Holland America Princess train ride. I ended up ultimately choosing a full-time job that would contribute to my career, that allowed me to work from home. So I decided against working in Alaska, and sometimes even today I still wonder what my life would look like had I chosen that other path. Unfortunately, 2022 did not see me return to the 49th state, but I was determined that not another year is going to pass without me going back to Alaska. In May of 2023, I finally returned to Alaska, but it was different this time. I returned on my very first Alaska cruise with my mom. She had never been to the state. She'd heard wonderful things. She wanted to go, and I really wanted to share it with her. We sailed on the Grand Princess on a 7-night cruise from Vancouver to Whittier. I loved that experience almost as much as I loved my time on land, of course to varying degrees, right? Because I had spent so much time on land, but I can definitely understand why Alaska is so appealing to cruisers now, having done both. Once again, I've not returned to Alaska since that trip. It is now 2025 and I haven't been back. But I promised myself I will go back one day. So now you know a little bit more about why I'm passionate about that place. But why are we all here watching this video today? And I will get to that point very soon, I promise. I want to make videos talking about Alaska because I want to go back and this is the next best thing that I can do right now. I'm gonna talk and you can listen. And if you have any questions at all, please leave them in a comment. I encourage anybody who knows the answer to respond to any questions you see in the chat. I'm going to do my best to answer any questions that I see in the comments. Just a couple more housekeeping notes and then I promise we'll get on to the actual subject of this video. None of this is sponsored. I'm not sponsored by the state of Alaska or anybody else. I'm going to try to keep everything as much as possible to factual information. So if I have experienced something that I'm going to share in any of these videos, I'm going to be explicit and tell you that I've experienced that myself. And so I'll preface that, with a little asterisk. But I want to, as much as possible, allow you to travel to Alaska on your own and form your own opinions based on your own experiences. Last thing, links to everything will be in the description box below this video. So let's get into the very first chapter of the series, and we are going to talk today about Alaska travel resources. I've got 3 of them here today in my hands. These are physical resources. Not all of these are resources you have to pay for. There's a plethora of travel resources to Alaska. Alaska is a global, it's a destination for people worldwide. This is a bucket list destination for a lot of people. So there's a lot of information out there. It makes perfect sense. But whether you've never been, you've been 100 times, I do think that it helps to have some resources, that will kind of tell you, especially up-to-date ones, what are the best excursions, things to look out for, maybe some of the best places to eat. Some of these may or may not have, discounted rates or coupons in them. So I want to share these with you because if you're planning a trip to Alaska, it's a huge state. There's a lot of decisions to make. So what's the harm in requesting some resources, especially if they're free, right? So first one we're going to talk about is the alaskatravel.com planner brochure. So this one arrives to your house like this. You request this one online, and I received a link to the digital copy within moments of requesting this, and then the physical copy arrived to my house a couple of weeks later. This is a pamphlet with a map of Alaska. It's in no way a full map of the state, but it does show a great deal of Alaska's Kenai Peninsula. This pamphlet includes some frequently asked questions about Alaska travel and planning a trip to Alaska. There are some destinations and activities highlights in here, and there are even some example itineraries of tours or trips, vacations in here. I believe you can call Alaska Travel, and there's an 800 number in here, and there's also their website, but I believe you can call and book these tours through Alaska Travel, which makes me think that these are vacation planners, which is what I want to, I do want to remark, vacation planners are an excellent resource. Whether they're these folks or if you've got a travel agent at home, vacation planners can be an excellent resource because chances are pretty high that they've been to Alaska at least once. So the last few pages of this brochure I want to talk about, they do provide information about motor coaches. So they've got like a little schedule over here, and traveling Alaska by rail. So this doesn't really go into a whole lot of detail about anything, but it is a very broad scope Alaska planning tool, and it's free. So if you're interested, it does have that little itty bitty fold out map. This might be more helpful for a land tour as opposed to a Alaska cruise. But if you're going to extend your vacation with a land tour, you might want to consider something like this. Up next, we have the Travel Alaska official Alaska State Vacation Planner. This is another free resource provided by an Alaskan entity. So this group is located in Anchorage, and this group is also located in Anchorage. And this one is partially funded by the state of Alaska. There is a 2-page spread map of the entire state of Alaska with the 5 different regions of the state color-coded for ease of study. Highways, railroad, pipeline, and ferry routes are marked on this map, as well as cities, bodies of water, national parks, and popular destinations. This magazine emphasizes the history, culture, and economy of the state. The different regions are broken out into small, easy to read sections. See how it's clearly marked. This is the interior region, and they provide the topography, how to get to that region, weather to expect in the area, and some popular sites and activities. There is a section discussing wildlife that can be viewed in Alaska, along with a reminder to always be respectful when viewing wildlife. This magazine includes several pages of vendors with contact information. So if you're having trouble finding or deciding on a tour company, there's information in here. And then something I think is maybe the most impressive about this particular resource is that there is a magazine within a magazine inside this magazine. And this one is completely devoted to Alaska Native culture. The indigenous peoples of Alaska, or referred to as Native Alaskans, they inspire many with their colorful culture, and they should be respected. and it even provides you with some traveler's etiquette if you've got any questions. Next, I want to talk about the AAA Tour Book for Western Canada and Alaska. This is another free resource, this time provided through AAA. It's a digital book that is nearly 500 pages long, which may sound tricky to navigate, but there are functional links in the book which helps make it easier to get around. The map of Alaska is a simplified version with notable cities marked but very little else. The AAA Tour Book provides crucial information for travelers, including the time zone or time zones and taxes incurred for different types of purchases in the area of interest. As a perk for AAA members, there are often discounted rates for hotels and for some activities, and this resource does provide some links to hotels as well as dining suggestions. If your trip to Alaska includes some Canadian tourism as well, this could be a useful one-stop resource for you, as Western Canada is included in this tour book. It is downloadable and printable if you prefer not to be on the web. Back to physical resources. We're going to talk about Alaska, and this is by Lonely Planet, and this is a paperback book style resource. I picked this up at Barnes & Noble. It was published in June of 2024, and it's recently up to date. The date back here says June of 2024, and it was first published in August of 1983. So it's important to have a new edition of these books when you're traveling, at least with every, couple of years or so. Since I purchased this, I've done some price checking, and it's available at Barnes & Noble for about $25. That's where I got this one. But it is also available on Better World Books for about $20 and Amazon for about $20. This book has everything, just about everything, I was personally looking for when I purchased it. There is, in the back, a large map. You can actually tear this out. I haven't done that yet. But if I flip this out, here's the map of Alaska, and it's actually oriented that way. So it's got the full state of Alaska on one side, and then if I turn it over, you've got downtown maps of Anchorage and Juneau on the reverse side. So if you're looking here at the book, can you see the different colors? So right here at the top, this dark navy blue is the Plan Your Trip section, which is filled with resources to help you plan your trip. When and where to go, what you might see when you get there, what you should pack for your trip, and even foods to try while you're there. The majority of the book is this green section here. And you can see there's lots of different colors inside that section. And so this is the guide section. It's broken down into even smaller sections based on location. So Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, Anchorage and around, Juneau and the Alexander Archipelago. It's clearly labeled for each travel destination within Alaska. Whether you're planning a cruise or a land tour, you'll find your destination and the surrounding areas in this book. A smaller, yet still extremely informative section within this book is the toolkit section at the end. And this one provides essential information for all Alaskan travelers, including currency and tax breakdown, health and safety information, tips for families, and even special information for LGBTQ travelers, solo travelers, and female travelers. And it's got a page for travelers with accessibility considerations to make. Of course, there are many other travel resources available to help you plan a trip to Alaska. YouTube is an excellent resource. I mean, you're here watching this, right? Alaska is such a popular cruise destination. There is a bounty of videos showing people and how they experience Alaska via cruise, on a multitude of different cruise lines. I don't know that I could name them all. There's lots of people who live in Alaska who run YouTube channels, and they share their everyday experiences living there. So of course they've got favorite places to go. Travel agents, as I mentioned before, are an extremely helpful resource, as much for booking your trip as for suggestions for things to do, places to go, sights to see. It's worth mentioning now that Alaska is not exactly a budget-friendly vacation, but you don't have to spend a fortune on travel resources to help plan your trip. There's lots of free resources available. I would suggest asking friends, family, coworkers. Chances are somebody you know has been to Alaska at least once. You could try reading online forums. Maybe Reddit has some suggestions. And don't discount your local library. There could be books Your local library might have this or something like it. One more suggestion though, take note of the date of publication, especially for printed resources like this. I know for a fact there's a Fodor, I think it's pronounced Fodor, Fodor's like Alaska Cruises, and they've also got just like an Alaska book, kind of like this, but the most recent edition that I could find was from 2022. And things changed rapidly prior to 2020 and even after, but they continue to change frequently even now. Popular sites like Mendenhall Glacier, they're still there, but prices, vendors, policies, quality of the experience may have changed if the information you're using is out of date. So just be aware that some printed resources may not contain the most up-to-date information. So take what you read, if it's older, with a grain of salt. I think that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Look for another video next Wednesday. We're going to be doing an Alaska encyclopedia next week. We're going to talk about some of the terms you may hear when people talk about Alaska, and if you don't understand them now, after watching that, you will. And if you've got any specific Alaska travel questions, leave them in a comment, and I or maybe one of you guys will help answer any questions that are living down there in the comment section, but I'm going to do my best to get to those. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. You guys will see me in another video really soon. Bye!